Hello, and welcome to Best Practices for Completing the Annual IPA Survey and Analysis of Firms. My name is Mike Platt, and I'm one of the principals of Inside Public Accounting. I want to welcome you to our discussion on best practices to complete the IPA survey. Our intention is that your investment of time today will save you time when completing the survey. Let's take a look at a few best practices to address from the start. You've received the IPA survey by email. Your firm has determined that you will be the point person in getting it done. You've added it to your to-do list, and you've put the deadline on your calendar. What can you do now to make the process as efficient, as accurate, and as valuable to your firm as possible? Number one, confirm your participation. To ensure that you're on IPA's radar screen and to avoid any unnecessary reminders, please send an email to survey@plattgroupllc.com to confirm that your firm will participate in the survey this year. Number two, start now. Regardless of whether your year end is December or May, there's a large portion of the IPA survey that you can complete today. Number three, consult the definitions. They're there not only to help you understand what the survey is asking for, but to also normalize the responses so they're more compatible with other firms. Be sure to check the Survey Definitions tab for explanations of what the survey is asking for. Number four, identify the resources in your firm that can help. Review the questions, make a list of the various management reports you'll need to consult, and determine if there's anybody else in your firm that may have quicker access to accurate information. Consider parsing out that section of the survey to them and complete and send it back to you. And finally, consider tracking the information that you're not currently tracking. The IPA survey has been developed over decades of consultation with practitioners and leading consultants on the kind of information that is most helpful for firm leaders of CPA firms to know. If your firm is not measuring or tracking some of this data, consider how it could help if you did. So let's start with a quick frame of reference regarding the IPA survey. We'll take a look at how the survey is laid out. When you open the email from us and click on the Excel spreadsheet, you'll be taken to this welcome page with instructions of how to fill out the form, deadlines, and how to submit the form. Your deadlines will be clearly stated here on the welcome page. Some associations have earlier deadlines to ensure that their data is ready for the spring meetings, and your assistance in meeting the deadlines will be crucial. To get to the actual survey form itself, click in this area in blue or on the actual IPA survey form tab in the same color, and that will take you right to the data entry area. A couple of quick comments on the tabs before we get into the survey form itself. This second tab down here is actually the survey form, which we'll come back to in a second. Some of you have additional tabs, which include the Firm Administration Survey, Human Resources Survey, and Information Technology Survey. If you don't have these tabs on your Excel workbook, it's because your association has requested that you just get the IPA survey. These are three additional optional surveys that IPA has developed to delve deeper into these areas of practice. Deadlines for all three operational surveys are the same as this survey. There's no cost to participate, and you will receive a complimentary executive summary when all the data has been compiled later this summer. If you don't have the surveys and would like to participate, please contact us and we'll be happy to send them to you. This last tab is a helpful guide to definitions. So we're all providing comparable information. We encourage you to refer to this tab when completing the form. And finally, the last tab is a place for you to provide clarification or further explanation of an answer if needed. For the remainder of our time today, we'll go through the various sections, highlighting changes that were made from last year and focus on areas that have given firms the most challenges or areas where the most common mistakes occur here on the IPA survey form tab. Okay, here we go. Throughout the IPA survey form, everything in white here is an input field, and you'll be able to enter your data there. We will refer to the rows that you'll see along the Excel spreadsheet here throughout this presentation today. Row 8 and 9 covers firm information. You're the expert in your firm, not us. So please help us out by putting your firm name and the managing partner's name exactly as you wish it to appear in print. Anything you put in this field will be considered your approval for how it should appear in print. Let me scroll down to row 29. And again, I'm not going to be going through each one of these sections, just the ones that have lent themselves to further explanation or the ones that are new this year. Notice the down arrow in this cell here. This indicates that there is a drop-down menu with selections to choose from. These drop-down menus are used throughout the survey, so anytime you see the down arrow when you're in a cell, be sure to click on it. Rows 34 to 38 refer to merger activity. Note that row 35 is a new question, wanting to find out if any merger activity was for a non-traditional service company, for a CPA firm, or for both. Moving on to the section entitled Financial Information, which starts on row 42. Let me point out some distinctions that will be important to remember. In row 42, we ask for gross revenues of the firm. Some firms tell us that they don't track this information, but we believe that all firms should. First, we're looking for revenue from all firm entities, including wealth management practices and other entities that provide revenue from something other than charge hours. Second, if the CPA firm owns only 50% of another entity, please add 50% of the gross revenue of that entity to your total. And finally, and most importantly, the actual dollar amount of gross revenue should represent all of the fees that your time and billing system says you should charge at standard rates before any write-downs or write-offs of time. Report accrual basis revenues before bad debt write-offs. If you have any questions, remember you can always refer to the definition tab here, and we'll give additional information for what is being sought after in that particular question. Row 43 focuses on net revenue, which is the actual billed amount of net of client reimbursables. Write-ups and write-downs should be taken into consideration here, but bad debts should not be. Row 44 asks for organic net revenue growth from your previous fiscal year end. Here we're asking you to exclude the effects of any acquisitions to determine organic growth only. Any activities generated by a lateral hire would be considered organic growth. Row 45 asks for all revenue growth, which would include growth that was both organic as well as any growth that came from a merger. Row 46 here is asking for the percentage of the firm's net revenue derived from something other than charge hours. Many firms have, for example, a wealth management practice where they're paid based on a percentage of assets under management. That would be an example of revenue from something other than charge hours. This next area, net revenues by service area, starting on row 48, we're looking for a breakdown of total net revenues by service area. Please be sure to complete this section based on each service's net revenue, and be sure that the total that's automatically summed in row 68 is the same as the total in row 43. If you have any services that are not listed here, please enter the dollar amounts in rows 65 through 67 and enter the names of the service area or the entity here in column C. Let's pause. Let's turn to the firm's net income starting on row 77. In row 77, we're looking for the total net income of the firm prior to any equity partner distributions. Let's again jump to the definitions tab for clarifications for row 77, and you will find the definition here for total net income. Rows 78 and 79 here again ask for organic and all growth of net income from the previous fiscal year, with the same definitions, excluding the effects of mergers for organic and including the effects of mergers in addition to organic for all. If you had no mergers at all, these two rows should show the same number. Row 80, we want to know how much of the net income is expected to be distributed to equity partners, either during the fiscal year reported or in the first months of the current fiscal year. The purpose of the question is to get an understanding of how much of the profits are being distributed to partners versus being reinvested in the firm in some capacity. If all the profits are earmarked for distribution, the number would be 100%. Row 83 through 85 is a change this year, asking for billing rate increases by department. So be sure to focus on that. Let's move on to the accounts receivable area starting in row 89. This is pretty straightforward. We've had this question for a number of years, but be sure you provide a number that is net of any reserves. Row 91 for unbilled work in progress. Please report this number based on what you expect to bill it at so we can have a more accurate picture of the actual value of your work in progress. The next section for firm costs as a percentage of the firm's revenue, starting on row 95, is a snapshot of some of the major buckets of expenses that are of interest to firm leaders. It's not intended to be a complete income statement. What goes into each bucket is not mutually exclusive. As an example, a marketing director's salary should be included in the firm-wide personnel percentage in row 95, and also included in the marketing costs in row 97. Do not include any equity partner time or compensation in any of the areas in the firm costs. In all cases, please report as a percentage of the firm's total net revenues. For a complete definition of what goes into each of these buckets, be sure to check the Definitions tab. Let's take a look at this next section, because this is the area that causes the most problems and where firms struggle with the most, causing us to go back to firms for clarifications. And that is in the personnel, charge hours, work hours, billing rates, and compensation matrix, starting on row 108. One of the questions we get most often is how to calculate full-time equivalent. For IPA's survey, FTE cannot be more than 1 FTE per person, but it can be less than 1 FTE. FTE should be based on a 2,080 hour year. So if you have a full-time person that started July 1st, they would be considered a 0.5 FTE. If you have a full-time person who works 30 hours a week, they should be considered a 0.75 FTE. If you had a partner admitted on October the 1st, please consider them a 0.25 FTE. We have made a change this year, so let me call your attention to that. In column C, we're asking for the FTE of those individuals on your staff who are chargeable. This is the same column as it was last year, but the new column, column D, asks for any individuals in the equity partners, in non-equity partners, interns, and other professional staff who are not chargeable. We've added this column for some of these professional staff who don't charge hours so that any hours per professional metrics can be more comparable. Most everyone will continue to put their staff numbers in column C, your FTE numbers. But if you have non-chargeable professionals like the staff of a wealth management firm, as an example, they would likely go into column D in row 126, so we can capture the number of people that are helping to contribute to revenue, but it doesn't interfere with the charge hours per person computations that we'll be doing. If you have a C-suite executive who is either an equity partner or a non-equity partner who does not charge hours, we would encourage you to put them in column D. Notice on row 132 that the firm-wide totals will aggregate both column C and column D. Column E, therefore, total charge hours for all the FTE in that particular group will be for the total FTE shown in column C. Here in column F, total work hours, that will be the total for everyone that you showed in columns C and D, so that we capture the total work hours for everyone. Be sure to back out any paid time off, such as holidays, vacation, sick time, and jury duty from the totals for total work hours. Let me also bring your attention to the far right side of the form, this pinkish area here. This is a checking mechanism that will help you assess the validity of the entries that you are making. So when you put in the numbers down here, if you have 4 3 to 5 year people, and let's say they charge 4,500 hours, and collectively they have 8,500 total charge hours, you will see over here in the right hand column, in column M and N, 1,125 would be the average annual charge hours per FTE, and 2,125 is the average annual work hours per FTE. So that will calculate that directly. Down on row 136, professional staff turnover percentage. Here we're looking for a percentage of professional staff turnover only. This should be the FTE professional staff who left during your fiscal year divided by the number of FTE professional staff at the start of the firm's fiscal year. Be sure to exclude all interns and seasonal staff from your calculations. Rows 137 and 138 are actually looking for FTE numbers, not a percentage. So do not think that 137 plus 138 should equal the percentage in row 136. Let's go down to 141, internal firm operations here. This section identifies the professional, management, and administrative positions within the firm. All salary information will be kept confidential and will not appear in any IPA publications. Please indicate from the drop-down menu if you have someone in that role. And for each one of the roles, the drop-down will ask if this is a full-time person who's not a client-serving partner, a part-time person who's not a client-serving partner, a client-serving partner, yes, you have one, but they're outsourced, or you do not have anybody there. Please indicate from the drop-down if you have an individual in each of the firm roles what their total compensation is here in the annualized compensation area. Include salary, bonus, overtime, and their commissions. If you have less than one full-time equivalent in a role, please use the salary of that position as if it were a full-time equivalent position. And if you have more than one person in the role, just average the numbers for that particular role and give us any indication of any discrepancies in the firm clarifications tab. Okay, let's move down to the firm ownership area, and that starts down on row 202. We added actually a new question this year on row 202. The intent of this question is to determine, on average, what percentage of equity partner compensation is discretionary based on individual performance. So the question, average mix of discretionary based on individual performance versus non-discretionary compensation for equity partners. So we would like you to select the mix of discretionary and non-discretionary that best relates to how your firm's equity partner compensation formulas are set up. Scrolling down to row 218, if you do have some type of discretionary income for partners based on any of these particular areas of extra credits, what we would like to do in rows 218, 19, and 20 is select from the drop-down the three areas that from above that carry the most weight on average in your partner compensation formula in row 218, 219, or 220, just like that. Starting on row 221, this section is exclusive to information about equity partners. If you're not tracking some of this information, you really should consider the potential value of doing so. Rows 231 down to 239 is specific to the managing partner of the firm. If you do not have a managing partner, or if you have several, please provide an average where appropriate. Section 240, this section addresses both equity and non-equity partners. Be sure to read the question carefully to see which is being addressed. In this section, we're looking for a head count here, not FTE. Please report only those people who were admitted during your fiscal year that you're reporting on. The rest of the questions are questions that we've had in the past. Nothing should look any different for you. Some of the associations will have additional questions to respond to. Down on row 409, IPA uses the results of this survey to identify firms for accolades, such as the best of the best, All-Stars, IPA 100, IPA 200, and IPA 300 firms. Most firms that we work with would like to be considered for these accolades, but if for some reason you don't want your firm to receive the recognition from IPA, you may opt out here. Well, that's about it. Remember to jump back and forth to the definitions tab. Many of the answers you're looking for will be there. If you have clarifications, please be sure to use the Firm Clarifications tab. To submit the survey, submit it to the address at the bottom to here at survey@plattgroupllc.com. If you don't have a copy of the 3 operational surveys and would like to complete those as well, and receive an executive summary of the results, please go ahead and contact us and we'll get those to you. That's the end of our session today. I want to thank you for joining us and thank you for your participation in the IPA survey. Your participation helps make this one of the largest map surveys available to the profession, and we appreciate the trust and the confidence that you have placed in our firm to deliver the gold standard in benchmarking to you and to the profession. If you have any questions that have not been answered, please feel free to contact us at survey@plattgroupllc. We're on the welcome page here. You can be in touch with Kelly directly, myself, or Chelsea Summers, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. Thanks so much. Have a great day, and thank you again for participating.